If you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, Grainger understands that you go to great lengths and sometimes heights to ensure the power is always flowing, which is why you can count on Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
If you're a podcast host, listen up, this one's for you. My name is Allie Jackson. I'm the host of Finding Mr. Height, a dating and relationship podcast that I've been doing for 4 years now, sharing my positive and practical approach to dating that's built on my own life experience. And I wanted to share another experience that I've had, my secret behind monetizing my show. It's called Red Circle, and I was just telling my colleague about how much I love their platform. With Red Circle, not only am I getting a seamless hosting experience, but I also love the support I receive in ad sales. It's not just typical ad sales either. It's targeted opportunities based on my show and my life. And the platform is super simple. You just set your preferences and Red Circle matches you with sponsors that align with your show. You can vet every opportunity and their platform gives you great analytics. More recently too, my Red Circle team has brought me opportunities outside of my podcast on social media to really augment the podcast partnerships, bring them full circle. I just can't recommend them enough. If you want to give it a try, go to redcircle.com to get your free trial. That's redcircle.com for a free trial.
Coming up on episode 413 of Wheel Bearings, we've got the Hyundai Ioniq 5 XRT, the Lucid Air Grand Touring, the Lincoln Navigator, the 2026 Hyundai Palisade. Automakers behaving badly and behaving well. Jeep's got some updates. We've also got the LVCC Loop getting dumber. Chevy's going to use some Chinese batteries for a couple of years in the Chevy Bolt. And Ford is continuing to delay its next generation full-size electric pickup and van. All that and more coming up next. All right, this is episode 413 of Wheel Bearings. I am Sam Abdul Samad from Telemetry.
I am Nicole Wakeland from...
Sounds like you forgot who you are.
Really, it's in my day.
Who am I?
Nicole Wakeland from Top Speed.
I am Roberto Baldwin from SAE International. I remember who I am most of the time. So,
I don't.
yeah.
Everything in my life has broken. All the things are...
Is this you're using a power book from the 1990s right now?
God, it was literally a Surface, I don't know, one of them that was sitting in the garage. I'm like,
no.
is this going to work, Russ? Apparently
Is it
does,
a first
but it
gen
requires-
Surface?
I don't know. It's
They weren't-
not first gen because it doesn't have the cool. It has, you know how they had the used to hear the fan or whatever
Yeah.
cooling it. It doesn't
Yeah.
have that, so it's
Okay.
not as. Or we had one of those. I'm like, he turned it on. It's like, whee! I'm like, let's try a different one.
So you guys have been Surface fans for a long time, it sounds like.
We have, and I think all that happened with my one, the one I've had. I think I've had it for like 5 or 6 years, and I just downloaded like a normal security update that it tells you to download, and it's like. It was dead. I'd have been trying.
Yeah.
I thought this one was good, and then when I went to record, it's like, no, you don't have the right things. I was like, tech support. So I don't know what Russ did, but it's working now.
Well, that's good to
I
hear.
had a long-term first-gen Surface review unit when I was a tech reporter. And the thing just had this problem after problem. Because when I got it, I was like, oh, cool. It's like, no. And then it's just problem after problem. I was like, man.
Honestly, mine have been great. The only reason I replace them is like better iterations have been out. And this one, like I've had this one for a long time. And so the fact that it made it this long, considering that it's shoved in my carry-on, tote bag and hauled all over creation, that it didn't die before this, I'm kind of impressed. So, and that this one, having sat in the garage apparently for 8 months, I don't know why it was in the garage. I was like, why is this in the garage? No, I wasn't sure we needed it. I'm like, so you kept it in the very environmentally not sound garage? Okay. But it survived that. So a testament to its hardiness. It worked.
Hardy.
Well, that's good that you at least have something to record on. So why don't we start off with what we're driving this week? What have you been driving, Nicole?
I have been driving... What? I
was just going to ask if you're ready, because I forgot to ask you that first.
I can be ready, but if I have to reference stuff, it's going to, because literally I've been fighting with my laptop for the last hour or so. I had the 2025 Lincoln, 2025? I think it's 25. Yes, 25. Lincoln Navigator with a giant screen and seating for your entire clan and then some.
Anyone you've ever known. The Lincoln
Everyone
Navigator.
you've ever known. So I literally love this thing. I have no need whatsoever for a giant 7-passenger SUV that costs, with everything on this one, William Monroney is actually blurry. Let's add insult to injury. This is $103,000, I think is what that says, for the love of people.
Oh my God.
So it's a 6-figure SUV. I have no need for this. I didn't have a need for this when the girls were still young and I was at home. But man, if you have $100,000 to burn on a car, this is kind of cool. It's been fun. It's very comfortable.
And you have a lot of friends.
Or you just carry big stuff. I don't know. You have Newfoundland that you show on the weekends and need a cage that could hold a horse, probably. You could put it in the back of the Navigator. It's huge, but it's also just really beautiful. I mean, the seating, there's all this leather and it feels every bit the luxury car that it is. I even like the screen. So it has a screen. It has your smaller infotainment screen that's, mounted a little bit low on the center of the dashboard. But like it's low enough that you think, well, that's too low to look for. But no, you have the giant screen that goes all the way across the front, like almost pillar to pillar, not quite. I don't know. There's a couple of inches on either side of it. And it's technically like 2 separate screens. If you look, you can see a little division in the middle, but it makes for when you glance at it like one giant panoramic screen that I wasn't sure I would like. Like initially when I saw these big sort of dashboard spanning screens, they seem like they're going to be horribly intrusive and just weird, like you're driving with the TV in front of your face, but you get used to it really quick and it turns out to be great. It's because it's almost like having a head-up display because it's so close to your line of sight. You hardly have to bring your eyes down to see it. So the fact that little infotainment touchscreen is lower and almost a little too low for using nav, you can put your nav pops up on that larger screen. So you don't have to worry about it and it's perfectly placed. I really like it. I think that it's great. I found it, and it's very easy and intuitive. There are a couple things that I don't like. One of them was they put too much, like the steering wheel, for example, when you want to adjust the height of the steering wheel, it's through the touchpad on the right-hand side of the steering wheel. And you slide your thumb and you say, I want to adjust my steering wheel. And then it brings up, then that little touchpad becomes exclusively steering wheel controls and up, down, left, right. But like you have to move it, you can't just reach forward and hit a button on the column. Like that would be so easy. Just instead you're like trying to touchpad the thing to bring it down and make it right. And it has the feature that drive all of us nuts, which is if you would like to adjust the air vents, you may not do so by touching. Yeah. You have to, again, go into the infotainment screen. And it's like one tap, like, because there's a little, on that lower screen, there is a section that for the climate controls. And you can tap that one section and it brings up, like it changes your screen. And then you'll have in front of it, you'll have, the air vents and you can slide them around on the screen. It's still not intuitive. And I thought, like living with this for a week, I thought, okay, I know I adjust the vents a lot because when I'm like roasting hot, when I sit down in the car, I want freezing cold air blowing right on my face. But then things calm down and I might just want cool air not going right on my face.
Yeah,
and I have
you just want ambient. Like
I want ambient. So, and it's like, okay, so now I go in and I change it and you have to look at it. That's the problem.
And the problem is that screen is so low down. You are, with the main screen, you're looking up. You can see that while you're looking at the road. Yes. That screen, you have to look down lower than usual to get it.
So you're looking, and then when you touch them, it's not even like, because your air vents, right, you're moving them, right? So when you last were in there, if you angle the vent a little high, it is physically higher on that touch screen. So there's no way you can do this without looking at it. There's no muscle memory that here is my left vent, here is my right vent. Depending on where I adjusted it, it is in a different position on that screen when you bring that, and you have to touch that position and drag it lower or drag it to the left or drag it to the right. It's very easy to use, but it's just not as easy as grabbing the vent and moving it, where you can fully keep your eyes on the highway and just move it until you feel the air hit you where you want to hit you. I don't get it. I don't understand why this is a better. A lot, like I said, initially the dashboard spanning screen, I'm like, why do we need this? Oh, that's actually really cool. Okay, I like this. Air vents, you can't actually touch to move. I still don't have I have no idea why. I have no idea. Even Russ went to grab it a couple of times, like, you can't move that. You can't move that. You're going to break things. And he's like, it was frustrating him. He's not even driving. Every time I saw him reach for it, I'm like, you can't move that. You have to touch the screen. He's like, that's stupid.
For the passenger gets in the car and is like, I want to like adjust my, no, hold on. No, let me tell you how to adjust your screen inside or adjust your vents inside a screen. Let me teach you. But,
it's just not intuitive.
It's dumb.
At all. It just isn't.
Dumb.
It's kind of dumb. And designers will tell you, so the reasons they kind of give you are sort of weak for why they do this. Oh, well,
They're very weak.
Making use of the technology, and it makes it streamlined, and it makes it this, and it makes it that. I'm like, okay, but also it's not as easy to use, and I don't think it's as safe. And the only designer I've ever heard say that the reality is, I was talking to the Kia guys, and I was like, how come you don't? He's like, because it's just not a good idea. No. Some things just, and I was like, yay, Kia, good job. Don't ever do it. Please don't change your mind. When I was talking to a designer about something a while back. So that's my gripe. And the only other real gripe that I had, and boy, is it a weird one. And it surprised one of the passengers I had in the car. It surprised Russ when I first sat down. So it has the deployable side steps that come fold out, and then they fold back in. But you'd think you might hear like, click, click. No, you hear clunk, 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 and they're out. Clunk, 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 and they're back. And the first time I was like, what the heck? And I'm like, oh my God, are those the side steps? Russ gets in, he's like, did you hit something? I'm like, no, those are the steps coming up as I'm backing up. We had a friend in the car last night. She's like, she gets in. She's like, what did I do? I'm like, you didn't do anything. Those are just the steps closing.
Oh.
So they're loud enough that the first time they close, people listen and think like, A, you hit something, B, I broke something in your very fancy car.
Well, especially since Lincolns tend to be inherently very quiet anyway, it stands out so much more compared to everything else in the car.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's the thing. It's when you have a car that is so smooth and so quiet and so pleasant and so elegant and all the things you want. And then when you open the door, when you shut the door, it's, I don't know, maybe if I was driving what's a car that you wouldn't think would be very quiet? I might not notice it, but I really notice it.
Let's say a Ford Expedition.
Yeah. Okay, a Ford Expedition, maybe, nothing against a Ford Expedition, but it's a little bit rough and ready. Perhaps that vehicle, then it would not
the
make me
Lincoln.
think like, what the heck is happening? But it's not a Lincoln. It's not a Lincoln. So yeah. Mm-hmm. So, but overall I liked it, and it's got plenty of power. It has that nice, because it's a luxury car, you want it to be powerful, but you don't want it to sound like a Mustang. You don't want it to feel and have that harsh, like, in your face. You still hear it. You know that it's accelerating. It sounds powerful, but in this more muted way that's in keeping with a great big luxury SUV. I genuinely like this. The things I don't like are so nitpicky, right? It's not like major. It's the vents.
I don't know. The vents, I wouldn't consider that a nitpick.
You don't think it's a nitpick?
No, I think that's a pretty fundamental problem.
That is a huge problem because it's something people use all the time. And so if you're using something pretty frequently, and I have to go search for it, and I have to take my eyes off the road versus, just a regular car where where those are because they're just hardware things. That is a huge fundamental problem. And trying to say, oh, well, trying to talk their way out of it and talk you into it being better is it's a mess. It's not good. It's bad. It's just bad.
So let me ask you, Nicole,
Yes.
now you've spent a week with this car. Would you select this over an Escalade or a Grand Wagoneer?
Escalade.
Okay,
It's a long pause.
Me personally, the Escalade is like the super baller, like there's an attitude with Escalade. I don't know if that's me. But if I didn't care about that, maybe, yeah. The Grand Wagoneer, I do love how the inside of it looks. I think the Grand Wagoneer, I would pick the Grand Wagoneer based on looks and style before I would pick, maybe I pick that before Lincoln. I definitely pick it before Escalade. Escalade would be my third pick. We're just going on looks and style, right? Not on reliability.
I mean, and that's fair because I think that's an important factor in this segment. When you're looking at premium cars, that looks and style, that's an important, a crucial consideration, I think, for people.
Yeah. And that's the thing with this. Like I say that and you think like, why would you buy a car just for looks and style? But especially when you're buying something, this is a 6-figure price tag. You aren't just buying it for it's not a sports car. It's not like I don't know what comes to my head, 911 or something. Like you're buying this because you the impression it makes, the way it makes you feel, the status symbol that comes along with buying something that is a 6-figure vehicle. So when that's the case, a lot of it is, does it look right? Does it feel right? Does it give the image that you want to portray driving around in that car? So yeah, I think the Lincoln and the Grand Wagoneer have a closer image to me than the Escalade, because the Escalade just has this gangstery, like there's a different vibe with the Escalade. You guys know what I mean.
Yeah.
You know what
No.
And I feel like the Wagoneers and the Grand Wagoneer and the Navigator are closer in their aesthetic, I guess.
Okay.
So I like it. And I literally, because this Monroney is so blurry and I didn't have time to look up anything because the laptop was not agreeing, I cannot tell what destination is. I mean, I can guess at what this number is. And if you guess the number I'm guessing, we can call it even. I'll pick a number I think this is. And then if you guess the number, this is like, what's that old thing where it's like, guess what I'm thinking? Like, what's in the envelope?
That was Johnny Carson.
Really old Johnny
Carson.
Carson
The great Karnak.
The great Karnak. I'm the great Nicole. If you guess the number that I'm guessing.
1995.
Robbie?
Of destination, I'm going to say 2100.
I believe it is 1995. It's either 1995 or 1985. Literally, the print is blurred. I was going with 1995, so Sam, I'm giving it to you.
Yeah, even if it's 1985 or whatever, it's still
right.
He still won.
So yeah. So there you go. So that's the Lincoln Navigator. That's the driving car that I will talk about next week. I have another vehicle to talk about, I think, but I'm gonna have to hold on that because I literally can't get anything. I got recording working in my email, and that's it on my laptop right now. Nothing is logged in anywhere, so I've lost all my notes. So,
well, after we finished, I pulled up Lincoln.com and went into the configurator.
yeah,
And it's actually showing the Navigator destination charge as $21.95.
So I won.
Definitely a 1 for the first number. Everything I can see the 1.
So it's possible that they've changed it like within the last, since that car was built, because the press cars, those were probably built, early in the year or even late last year.
Yeah.
And there's a strong probability that they've bumped those up.
It doesn't matter why. All it matters is that I won.
But we're gonna go with a 1. So it's a 1, blah 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 blah. And I'm like 9s, 8s, it's too mushed together. But the difference between a 1 and a 2 is visible on this poorly printed Monroney. So
all right. Robbie, did you drive anything?
So it is Monterey Car Week up here in the old Northern California. And what that means is that every automaker is here with all of their people taking up all the cars. So there's no cars. And there have been a few times where I've gone to Monterey Car Week. This is before we had 2 cars. This is when we had 1. So I had the Vespa, so I wasn't going to ride the Vespa to Monterey Car Week.
It's a bit of a long ride from where
it's a little too
That would
far.
have been interesting.
It's just a scooch too far.
Although it'd be great for getting around traffic around Monterey.
Oh my gosh, don't even get me started on them. So the traffic means that everyone has a car. So if I wanted a Hyundai, well, Hyundai, there's probably people from Hyundai at Mart, even if they're not showing, like executives and employees and from every automaker is at this event. So every car that's in the fleet that I would typically be able to check out, gone. Nothing. So I don't have anything. It's a long way of saying that all the important people of the automakers have the cars, and of course, there's also the cars that are here because of journalists are coming in out of town or are driving up or whatever. They give out cars. I didn't want to go to Monterey Car Week this year. I had too much stuff. Sorry, Monterey Car Week. The quail's great, but I've done the walk on the golf course with all the old cars. I've done it like 4 to 5 times. That's enough. I'm done. I've seen it's the same cars every year, over and over and over, and I'm like, I'm good. So that's a very long way of saying everyone else has cars but me.
Monterey Car Week. I had someone say that it's really cool to go to, but that it's weird because there's these incredibly expensive events and things to go to. And it's just like very, very wealthy people just do this for fun, for kicks and giggles. And it's like, so I'm pretending I can afford to be here. Like when you're media.
There's this caviar booth. Like if I go to some sort of gathering, if there's like a hot dog booth or like a nacho booth, I'm so excited. And I like caviar. It's just salty little eggs. But they're like, here's the caviar and the champagne booth. And I'm like, like a whole booth? No hot dogs, huh? Come on.
It's like, last week, there were 180,000 people that went to San Francisco to see Dead and Company celebrate the 60th anniversary of the Grateful Dead. And they were gathered in Golden Gate Park. The rich people, they go to Monterey Car Week instead of hanging out with a bunch of deadheads in Golden Gate Park.
Well, this weekend is Outside Lands, a huge music festival in Golden Gate Park. So the whole Bay Area is just bonkers. Like we had a show last night, one of my bands, and I didn't realize it was Outside Lands until Friday. I'm like, oh, that's why no one's buying tickets. It's just one of those things, like a club will be like, hey, you want to play a show? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And they'll give me a date and I'll ask everyone if everyone's available. And they're like, yeah, that's great. And we're like, cool. And then we'll go to play a show. And I'm like, well, where is everybody? And you'll find out, like for years.
It's like you were the only ones not invited to play at Outside Lands.
Yeah. And so for years we would do shows during Pride, not realizing it was Pride when we got booked, because we get booked like a month or two in advance. Oh. And so we would play these, like all of a sudden we're going to shows. I'm inviting friends. They're like, dude, I'm not going to your show. It's Pride. I'm going to Pride. I'm like, oh. So if we finally just solved the problem by playing Pride, playing the parade one year, that's how you get around the.
That's your solution.
That's in the Bay Area. There's always something going on. So you're always like, like we played shows like down the street from bands, huge bands that play sort of the same genre at a club. We're like, that was bad timing. It's just the. If you like having fun, move to the Bay Area is what I'm trying to tell you.
Well, as we've been having this discussion, I decided to just check on a couple of things here. It seems that, while during the first half of the year, Ford held the line on pricing around the whole tariff thing and did all kinds of deals, they made up for it by apparently jacking up the prices, jacking up their destination charges on everything. So destination charge on F-150s and Expeditions also went up by $200 to $2,195. Destination charge on a Maverick now is $1,695.
$1,695 for a car. Yeah. I remember when the Maverick was $20,000, and now
yes.
Man,
remember when it was cheap and everyone rejoiced? Remember that?
Yeah. So I'm looking at a base Maverick XL in white with Steelies. No options selected, including the destination charge. It is now $30,535, and that is the minimum that you can pay for a Maverick now.
What is it?
$30,535.
It's
Oh.
a $10,000 kick in the teeth from a car that was $20,000.
Yeah.
$10,000. That is an enormous jump in cost. Just
Yeah, it looks like
factor in just the price, like the percentage jump.
Yeah, it looks like largely across the board, Ford has bumped their destination charges by about $200. So that sucks.
I mean, 200 is at least it's like, I mean, it's a lot, but it's not, it could have been worse.
But the thing is, they did this at the same time that they were advertising that, oh, we're holding the line on prices. We're giving employee pricing deals, and everything. Meanwhile, they increase this other part of the thing that is not, not an option. This should not. I still firmly believe that destination charges should be outlawed. Just roll that into whatever the MSRP of the vehicle is.
It's
period.
Such a weird thing. Like,
it's a trick.
How come to be? Like, how do we suddenly, were they once upon a time really destination charges? Like, your car shipped 1,000 miles, you paid $500. Your car shipped 100 miles, you paid.
Yes. Actually,
it actually worked once upon a time.
Sometime in the early 90s, they changed it because it used to be that the destination charge was a function of how far the vehicle was delivered from the factory. So, for example, if you lived in Detroit and the car was coming from the Rouge plant, the destination charge might be a couple $100. But that same vehicle going to California might be, $800 or $900. And around the late 80s, early 90s, manufacturers decided to simplify it and just basically figure out, here's the average of what it costs us to ship the vehicles, whether it's going 10 miles or 2,000 miles. And they basically put the same destination charge across the board. But the other thing is, at some point in the past, I think it was also possible. I know, various manufacturers have had factory delivery programs, which is one thing. But I think it was also possible at some point in the past, I might be wrong about this, that you could go to the factory and pick up your car and not pay a destination charge because, it doesn't cost the manufacturer anything to ship it, if you're picking it up from the factory gates. That hasn't been the case for decades. So the destination charge is mandatory. There's no way around that. You cannot avoid it. So since it is part of the price of the car that you must pay,
it should be the price of the car.
For to GM's credit, for the last several years, they've actually been doing that. The advertised MSRP that they list is the price including the destination charge. If you go through their configurators on their websites, it will show you, here's the MSRP just of the vehicle, and it'll break it out. But the prices that they advertise include the destination charge, and that should be mandatory for everybody.
Yeah. Because
this is what you're going to pay. Simple as that.
Sense that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's not like you can say nope. You can't do anything, but
I don't want destination charge.
So
yeah.
Like, I choose not to. What are my options? There is none. You're paying it. Well, then why are you making it look like
I'll come to Louisville and pick up my Navigator.
Right.
You don't need to ship it
it's
to
like,
me.
great, you're still going to pay it. No? Okay, then it's not really a destination fee.
Yeah.
If you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, Grainger understands that you go to great lengths and sometimes heights to ensure the power is always flowing, which is why you can count on Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Did you know you can support Wheel Bearings directly? Head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia, and you can become a patron today. Your contributions will help fund the platforms and tools we use to bring the podcast to you. And exclusives and improvements are already on the way thanks to your generosity. So if you want to be part of an automotive podcast like no other, head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia. We've updated the Wheel Bearings merch store, and now there's a whole bunch of new choices, new colors, new styles, t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, hats, mugs, travel mugs. stickers, aprons, tote bags, you name it. You can get your Wheel Bearings merch at shop.wheelbearings.media. Go check it out. That's shop.wheelbearings.media. All right. Well, let's carry on. So I had a couple of different vehicles that I drove since we last spoke. I had the Hyundai Ioniq 5 XRT, which is the sort of off-roady version of the Ioniq 5 that they added for 2025. And, to Hyundai's credit, when they created the XRT, unlike the Ford Mustang Mach-E Rally, which did not get any increase in ground clearance, at least Hyundai actually raised the ground clearance by an inch. They lifted it by an inch. They put recovery hooks, bright red recovery hooks on the front and the back. They made a bunch of other visual changes to it. I like the XRT. I think it's pretty cool. Plus, the other nice thing about it is it's got 18-inch wheels with tires that have some sidewall, which is really handy here in Michigan, where we have roads that are less than ideal, less than pristine. So having tires with some sidewall, gives you a little better ride quality. The all-terrain tires that they use there, I think I forget which ones are on this now. It's not the Continental Cross Contacts, or maybe it is. I think it is Continental Cross Contacts. They have, as we saw back in February when we drove these things out in California, and we had a chance to drive them on a bit of an off-road course in the near Palm Springs. It actually does decently well, within the limits of the ground clearance that it has. It's got terrain modes now for snow, mud and snow, and for sand. So it'll adjust the settings for the stability control and for the throttle response. And other than that, it's basically like driving any other Ioniq 5, or for that matter, an EV6 or other eGMP vehicles from the Hyundai Motor Group. Very good. Seats are comfortable. It's roomy. You got lots of cargo space in the back. You got lots of rear seat room, plenty of headroom. It's a very nice vehicle to drive. I like it a lot. Being lifted and having all-terrain tires that are not as low rolling resistance as their typical tires that you would find on an Ioniq 5 or most other vehicles. It does suffer a little bit in terms of its energy efficiency. So the XRT is rated at 259 miles of range, which the XRT only comes with all-wheel drive. So it's a dual motor all-wheel drive, 320 horsepower. I think the regular, an SEL with that same configuration, but with the different tires on there, will do, I believe it's 280 miles on a charge. So you lose about 20 or so miles of range, but it's still quite efficient. I actually was getting about 3.3 miles per kilowatt hour of energy efficiency, which is really nice for a vehicle like this, especially considering the weather was very hot. I had the air conditioning on wherever I drove. And it's still got decent efficiency. The 2025 Ioniq 5s all get they have a standard NACS port built in, NACS charging port, or SAJ3400. I didn't bother taking it over to my local supercharger station to try it out. Did that when we were in California. It'll on a supercharger, it'll charge at about 125 kilowatts, which is about half the peak speed that a Tesla will charge on the same charger. It's better than what the pre-2025 Ioniq 5s did with an adapter, because they made some changes in the charging circuitry in the car. So but compared to a Tesla charger, and there's been tests that have done of charging a Model 3 and an Ioniq 5 side by side at superchargers, and the Ioniq 5 overall, if you go from like 10 to 80%, will actually charge in about the same speed or slightly faster or at the same time or slightly faster than a Tesla, because the Tesla jumps up, it peaks at 250 kilowatts, but then it drops off pretty dramatically after about 20-25% state of charge, whereas the Hyundais will sit at 124, 125 kilowatts, until you get to about 70% state of charge. So you end up with more volume under the charging curve. So even though the peak is lower, it still charges very, very fast. And so if you need to use a supercharger, you can do that without an adapter. And Hyundai does ship their new EVs that have the J3400 ports with adapters. So you actually get two adapters. You get one for AC charging for J1772, which I used here with my charger here at home. And then there's also a separate one to plug into CCS chargers. And on a CCS charger, it'll do a little over 240 kilowatts, assuming it's a 350 or higher, 350 kilowatt or higher charger. All in, let's see, the Ioniq 5 XRT came, let's see, there was only two options on this one. So there was $1,000 for the Atlas White matte paint and $210 for the carpeted floor mats. And the grand total came to $58,085. Guesses on the destination?
$800. No. Yeah.
I was going to say $1,295.
Nicole gets it. It's $1,475.
Ah, too much.
Woo! Something went my favor today. Yes.
And this car is assembled in Georgia at Hyundai's new factory near Savannah. It's actually in Ellabelle, Georgia. Let's see. When they started production, they were still getting batteries from South Korea, from LG or from SK, I should say. They have since shifted to sourcing the batteries from SK's factories in Georgia, and at least until the end of September. If you get one of these, it should be eligible for the $7,500 tax credit now, if it's one that has a Georgia-sourced battery. And then after that, well, you're on your own, sadly. So that is the Ioniq 5 XRT. Okay, continuing on. I had last weekend, I was out in California, and I took a long weekend out there with my wife for a little vacation in Sonoma. And while we were there, I had a Lucid Air Grand Touring. I was hoping to get a Gravity, but Lucid didn't have any available. Apparently, they're still having issues actually building these things because they have not really delivered many, if any, to customers yet either. But they didn't have any available to drive. So I was hoping to actually get the Air with the update that they just announced that enabled hands-free driving on the highway. Unfortunately, the car I was driving did not yet get that OTA update to enable that, so I didn't get a chance to try that. So I just had a standard Lucid Air Grand Touring, which was a lovely car to drive. It's always nice to spend time in that car. The one that I had the it was, like I say, it was a Grand Touring in the Ultimate Black Metallic, which looks great. Terrible to try and photograph though. Everything just kind of blends in. This one also had the stealth appearance package, so even some of the little bits, like at the base of the C-pillars where there's a little trim piece and on the mirror caps, where normally it would be a brushed aluminum, those were black as well. Everything was all black. So it just kind of blends in. But it's a great car to drive. It's roomy. It's got 819 horsepower, which is way more than anybody really needs. The range, EPA estimated range is 446 miles. I averaged 3.41 miles per kilowatt hour during the 5 or so days that I had the car, and that works out to with the 118 kilowatt hour battery about a little over 400 miles. I fortunately, did not have a need to charge it during the time I had it, because the Airbnb we were staying at had a charger, but it was a Tesla charger with a NACS connector on it, and I did not have an adapter to go from NACS to J1772 to charge the car there, but it was fine because I had lots of charge. When we got back to San Francisco, I stopped in San Francisco at a Shell recharge station before as we were heading to the airport to put a little more juice in it so that the delivery guys would have plenty to get back to their office. But that Shell recharge station was only, I think, 150 kilowatt station. So stopped there for about 10 minutes, which, got it back up above 50% charge, which is fine. The Air, does have manual vents, which is a good thing. It's got, but it's got some, some things that I would prefer with some sort of physical control, like, if you want to adjust the mirrors or the steering wheel, you got to go into the lower pilot panel to select which one of those, and then use the controls on the steering wheel to actually adjust the steering wheel or the mirrors, which is a little bit awkward to do. At one point when we were first leaving the parking lot, when we got to San Francisco, I started to pull away, and I realized I needed to adjust the mirrors some more, and I couldn't remember where to adjust the mirrors in there. And so I'm having my wife, I'm having my wife look through the screen while I'm driving to find that control. It's just, putting all this stuff in the touchscreens and having these layers of menus. It's very awkward. Yeah. The Air does have support for CarPlay and Android Auto. And it is wireless. But the way the screen is shaped in the Air, you've got this 33-inch wide thing that's actually 3 separate displays in there. There's some auxiliary controls on the left end of the screen. You got the instrument cluster directly in front of the driver, and then you've got infotainment stuff on the right-hand side above the center stack. And it's not rectangular in shape, the display. It's sort of I'm not quite sure how to describe it. One side is the left-hand side is taller than the right-hand side, so it's kind of tapers out towards the right. But the way that it's set up when you're using the phone projection, it doesn't just automatically fill that display area. So it still displays in a rectangle within that area. So there was a significant part of that display that was going unused when I was using Android Auto and Google Maps, which was kind of annoying because ended up with a smaller display area than I would have wanted. But other than that, it's a lovely car to drive. For a car that is not particularly huge. This thing has a remarkable amount of cargo space in it, in the trunk and in the front. So in the trunk, you could put 4 carry-on bags. The way the trunk is shaped, it's this sort of clamshell shaped trunk lid that opens up. So it's not a real huge trunk opening, but basically you slide stuff into it, and it's very deep. It goes under the rear shelf up towards the back of the rear seats. So you can fit 4 carry-on bags side by side, standing on their sides. So, if you get into a 737 and you put your carry-on bag in the overhead compartment, you're supposed to stand it on its end, not on its back, because they can fit 4 of them in there. Same thing in the back of this one. In an A320, you usually put them on their sides, and most of them, because that's the bins are shallower. So you can put 4 bags in there, plus probably put at least another 2, or some duffel bags and backpacks and stuff, in front of that. And then in the front, when you open the front trunk, initially it looks like a fairly shallow area, but then you notice there's a little handle there. You can pull that up, and there's a really deep front cargo area right in the front of the car, which, again, you could put at least one or two more carry-on bags in the front. So you could put far more carry-on bags in a Lucid Air than you can fit passengers. So you're not going to have any problem at all putting your stuff in this car. What else? Even with, the one I had the 21-inch wheels, the Aerosport Stealth wheels, which are a $1,750 option. Personally, I think
calling them stealth wheels, they should literally be invisible, like a stealth camera.
They almost are when you're photographing this thing. They almost disappear into the rest of the car in daylight. They're attractive, but yeah, they don't really stand out on their own. But they also don't have much sidewall, and it's not as bad as Michigan roads, but some of the roads in Northern California, not exactly billiard table smooth. The Air has really good driving dynamics, and the ride quality is surprisingly good. But I think if I was buying one, I would probably go with one of the 20-inch wheel options, or frankly even go with the Touring, which I think has 19-inch wheels. So again, get a little more sidewall, a little more protection. The last time I drove an Air a couple of years ago here in Michigan, I actually that was the time when I got a flat tire with one from a pothole. It popped the tire on it, which was not great. Required sending out a mobile service van from Grand Rapids, Michigan, which is about 2.5 hours away, with a spare tire to put on it. But let's see, grand total $127,650. Guesses on destination?
1,600.
1995.
Robbie gets it. It was only $1,500.
Oh, I was even thinking I should have been higher. Okay. Woo! Go, Robbie.
Yeah.
It's my birthday. It's not my birthday. Don't send me anything saying it's my birthday. It's not my birthday.
All right. So that was the Lucid Air Grand Touring and the Ioniq 5 XRT. All right, let's move on to some of the stuff happening. Well, let's start off with a Wagoneer S update.
Dun, dun,
Okay.
dun.
I was fighting to get into my email. So where do we leave us? It had died in my...
The last thing was it getting torn up as the Massport was trying to drag it out of the parking garage at the airport, at Logan Airport.
Massport dragged it out of the parking garage.
And dropped it
to the dealership. The dealer, he basically dropped it. Which I have to say, Massport has been quite good about trying to rectify that problem. They've already now sent out an adjuster and all that stuff, and last bits and pieces will come together, and then I can take it somewhere and I can theoretically have it fixed. Jeep, the guys at the garage.
The theoretical part there is the important part, I think.
The theoretical part. Mm-hmm. So the dealership I've been dealing with, once again, mad props to Alan Mello, Chrysler Jeep, Dodge, Ram in Nashua, New Hampshire. They've been fabulous. The guys there have been amazing. So what happened? I have to pull up the emails. There's many emails. So they actually had some engineers come out and take a look at what was going on with ye olde Wagoneer S. And it took them some time to figure it out. And they eventually find a problem. Sure enough, I know you're all going to be really shocked. There was, in fact, some parasitic loss happening. And the reason for it was a component that was staying on. Hold on a second. I will get to the right thing. Nothing is loading properly on my computer. Dear God. Wait.
It's not a Jeep branded computer, is it?
You guys, technology's got faster. Okay, hold on. Like loading. And what they came up with was, let's see, summary of the finding. I'm bringing it up. So they said the root cause was whoops, and I lost it because it refreshed. Let's see. Hold on. Sorry. Everything's loading weirdly. It was a fail. Oh, here we go. It was A malfunction in the auxiliary heat pump, a component used in our EVs for cabin conditioning. While the auxiliary heat pump isn't responsible for cooling the electric drive modules, in this case, its failure triggered excess activity in the coolant pumps that support EDM cooling, which drain the 12 volts. They haven't seen it happen before. And they're sent the part back to check out the part, and they ordered a new part, and all was right with the world for about
Briefly.
6 hours. So they kept the car, and I was traveling, and I said, guys, I can't even get back to the car. And the dealership was like, well, actually, I'm not going to complain that you can't come back for the car because we're going to check this out every single day. We're going to drive a little bit. We're going to chart a little bit. We're going to make sure that it's working every day until you can come pick it up. Like, we want to make sure. The guys did every day. Everything worked absolutely perfectly. I picked up the car on Tuesday at like 11 o'clock in the morning, and Russ went to back it out of the garage to mow the lawn. Guess what?
It all worked perfectly, right? You were able to back it out.
Garage?
That would have been the best case scenario. He comes upstairs, and it was the strangest thing. He came upstairs, and as he comes upstairs, I hear him open the door in the garage, and I hear the like woo from the car going in reverse. I'm like, how am I hearing that sound? And Russ is coming upstairs from the garage. Something isn't right with the world.
The car wasn't actually moving, was it?
No, it's going nowhere. So he said,
It's been
I don't know what happened, but your car isn't working. And I went out. You can't, it's giving all sorts of weird errors, transmission errors, ADAS errors. You're trying to turn the gear shift, and it's like, it's in park, it's in reverse, it's in neutral. It doesn't matter. No matter what you do, it won't move. And the backup tone won't stop, which, you know what? That backup tone is really sweet and kind of fun and cute when it goes for about the 2 seconds you're backing up. After about 20 minutes, you're like, dear, I just wanted to stop. So, and then it's like, we can't turn it off. So we push the button to turn it off, and we're trying to turn it. It's not turning off. I open the door, and it seems like it's turned off. I'm like, wait, now is it off? And as soon as I shut the door, the sound starts up again, and it says inside, ignition on. I'm like, oh, for the love of all things holy. So basically, it's all confused again. We have it towed right back to the dealership. The poor dealer, I honest to goodness, I think when he probably saw my car sitting in the lot, I'm sure he was like, no, that can't be her car. And he called me, and now it's not like, hi, Nicole, this is Tyler, LML Judge. It's just, hey, Nicole. Like, he's as frustrated as I am. Such a nice guy, though, like really genuinely nice. He's like, I can't, and he's frustrated too, because he's like, I swear we went through, and I'm like, I'm not mad at you. I know that at this point you don't want to see my car again either. I don't want to be there either. He was super nice. I let Jeep know again. I'm like, hey guys, something's still not right. Something's still not right with this car. They said, Jeep is like, oh my goodness, we'll get it figured out. We, don't know what's happening. I'm so sorry. Right. And then after a couple of days, engineers again come back. And this time they said that there was pin connectors under the dashboard in the wiring harness that weren't connecting, and that can cause a million different errors, like all the weirdness I saw, the ADAS errors, the transmission. It can cause all sorts of weirdness. And the dealer even said, yeah, like I've seen cars with those kind of errors where suddenly the windshield wipers won't turn off, or like a window will go up and down, up and down, up and down. Like they can cause the weirdest kind of errors. So Jeep thinks they have it. They are sending the parts over. They're sending them from Detroit. They didn't have the parts in stock. The parts aren't there yet. So I'm thinking like they're doing them as quickly. It's all happening as quickly as they can make it happen. So I think the parts probably be there for them to take a look at it Monday. Monday they'll see about what they're going to do, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with the Wagoneer S. I can say like really good things about Jeep. Jeep has been super responsive. I even asked them, I said, I realize that I can pick up the phone and call you guys. The average consumer can't pick up the phone and call you guys. Are you seeing this with other people? Is this happening? And she said, Nicole, even our engineers here are a little like, what the heck? All these things going wrong with her car. What is going on? So they think they have it, and, they're hopeful that they have it. But I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit nervous because they thought they had it before and they don't. And we replaced a 12 volt, then it was good. We replaced a 12 volt in a component and it was good. Now we're going to replace a wiring harness and probably the 12 volt again. And we're going to hope it's good. So I think they're finding things that are wrong, but I'm not sure they're finding the thing that's wrong. And the only way to know that is to just have them fix what they're going to fix and then take the car back again. So we'll see. I know. So we'll see what happened. It's breaking my heart because I love this car, guys. I love it. It's so fun to drive. I love how it looks. I love its little radar red interior. I love the hum when it backs up, as long as it's not going for 20 minutes. I genuinely love this car. But the essential part of a car is it needs to go.
It needs to work.
It needs to work. And
you need to go places and do things.
It's not working. And I mean, Jeep has been great. Like the dealership immediately said, do you need a loaner? And I was like, this week I don't because of the timing. My press car has me covered. Guys, don't give me a loaner. Somebody else is going to need that car. Hold on to it. They're like, okay, if that changes, let us know. There's an issue. I said, yeah, but I don't want to, I don't need a loaner. Don't give me one. But they offered right away. So, I mean, in terms of what they're trying to do, I give Jeep full credit from the corporate end to the dealer end. Even the guys all the guys in the dealership, they're like, hey, Nicole's here. They're super nice. Aww. They're trying to be helpful. They're being so kind and sympathetic. But we still don't know. What we don't know is, why am I having so many problems? Okay, even if this is a lot of problems with a car with 2,000 miles on it. So
some cars
that's where we are today. This particular Sunday. What is it? August 10th. 12:41 p.m. That's where we are right now with the Jeep. So it is dead again, sitting in the dealership waiting for parts, and they're hoping that they've got it this time. I'm driving around in a yieldy Lincoln Navigator, so I'm all set on having a car in the meantime. And I don't know how it's going to roll. Like I said, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with this exact Wagoneer S. I don't know what is going so sideways with it.
Well, on the plus side, at least we know that, prior to delivery of the car, you didn't necessarily get any special treatment in terms of them, going over everything in the car with a fine-tooth comb to make sure everything was perfect, just because they knew it was going to Nicole Wakeland. Yeah, you got the theoretically the same treatment as any other Jeep customer.
I would say, and it was fine. Until that first battery. That first 12 volt issue, I wasn't really having any problems of note, random things that could happen with any car, so it wasn't like I was like, oh gosh, there's a problem. There's a little glitch, they'll fix it. There was no real huge issue. But now that this issue has reared its head, it just doesn't seem to want to go. It's like a Hydra. Aren't those the ones with the many nets and you cut one off before it happened?
Yeah.
So it's feeling a little bit like a Hydra. I am still very hopeful that we're going to get something figured out here. And I mean, I even spoke on the phone to the person from Michigan the other day, and she wanted to talk to me and make sure, because we've been doing everything by email. She's like, no, I want to talk to you. I want to make sure I know what's going on. Are they, is the dealership doing right? And she's like, she had said, we don't want any customer to feel like their car isn't working the way it's supposed to. And we would be at this point going, what the heck is going on with any customer? Because you shouldn't be having this much trouble. So she acknowledged that this isn't right. And we want to make things right for any of our customers, especially when you're having this kind of recurring issue. And she was great. So the car is frustrating me and I'm sad more than anything. I'm not mad or anything. I'm just really sad. You get something.
Not angry. You're disappointed.
I'm disappointed, which is the worst thing your parents can tell you, right? I'm not mad at you. I'm just very disappointed. I'm disappointed.
Well, and you're
right now.
You're lucky because you have other vehicles to drive.
Right.
So you're not getting stranded. This is not your only vehicle that you need to get to work or get kids to school or whatever it might be. Most customers,
but they Jeep, the dealership does give loaners out when they have long-term issues. So I don't think that they would not be giving me a loan. They're only offering me a loaner because, but they offered me one. They're offering other people, I think if you.
Right. It's not so much that.
Hopefully you would have a loaner coming anyway.
Yeah, but it's the inconvenience of having to go back and forth to the dealer all the time. Even if they're giving you a loaner, they're giving you, they're doing everything they can to try to rectify the problem. Just having to deal with this nonsense,
That's the frustrating. I had we had it stuck in the driveway once. Thankfully, no big deal. It was just stuck in the driveway. We had it stuck in the airport. That turned into a fiasco. We had it stuck in the driveway again, like literally having just picked it up. So like the inconvenience of it, the frustration of it. I'm like, oh, hey, I got to call a tow truck again. I got to deal with this. We had, although I think Russ may have been happy this most recent time because he has to back the car out of my side to get to the lawnmower, and he couldn't get to the launmower, so he couldn't mow the lawn. So I had to sabotage the whole thing.
So it's really his fault.
It was like, oh, shucks, I can't mow the lawn today because
he reached under there and messed with the connector.
Yanked on things. That's why Jeep can't figure it out. Russ is sabotaging it. But yeah, it's inconvenient, and it's hard because, when you buy a car, and it does show some, like, anybody can buy any car and anything can happen. This isn't a Jeep specific thing. Anybody can buy a car and have a car that has issues that you have to spend time getting fixed. And it's frustrating when it happens.
Sometimes some cars just have problems.
Exactly.
Like
so
100,000 cars can come off the line, but like 5 of them are
right. And if you get one of those 5 that for whatever reason, the stars aligned in exactly the wrong way, you get one that has problems. And it can happen with a cheap car. It can happen with an expensive car. It can happen after you've done all the research in the world. I know that Jeep, I knew what I was getting into, I thought, with, Jeep having not the best reputation quality, but things have been better. They've been working hard to improve over the years. And I thought I was in for minor inconvenience things. That's not what this is. This is a major inconvenience. But yeah, it truly can. You can do all the research. You can think you know what you're getting. And then things can still go sideways. Things can still go wrong. And the most you can hope for in those situations is that the OEM, whatever car you bought, that the automaker and that the dealership are trying to help you. And I genuinely feel like they are. I get it's not just like, well, she's a journalist, she's going to talk about this. It's genuinely like, we're sorry this is not going the way a new car purchase should happen. I can see it in that poor Tyler is a saint at this dealership. He is just like, he's like, I'm so sorry. Like, I feel like the guy, like, I hope he went home and just like had a beer and a steak. Like, the guy is having a rough time with this car. He doesn't want to have to see this. And, he doesn't want to inconvenience me. So I feel like despite the fact that this is a significant issue with this vehicle, they are doing right by me in every way possible and making me feel like, crud, we're as upset about this as you are. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad they're doing what they can, and that the dealer is treating you right. Yeah, because that's one of the things, that people complain about the most is when, dealers, most people hate car dealers, and it tends to be more so because of the buying experience than the after sales service. Service departments usually do a pretty good job, but I'm glad they're at least doing what they can to fix it.
I mean, a lot of owning a car, like when people talk about a dealership experience and they're like, oh, I had a bad experience as this dealer. I'm never going to buy a Ford. I'm never going to buy a Jeep. I'm never going to buy a whatever ever again. From one dealer to the next, you can get a very different experience. So if you find a dealer when you have a car and you find a dealer to service your vehicle that you like, stick with that guy, stick with the deal. You have to find one that you like and that you feel like is treating you right. And they don't all treat you right. That's why they have such a bad reputation. This one has treated me right. I don't have complaints about them. I would recommend them to anybody looking for those vehicles to go to these guys because they're so good. Their sales guys were nice. Their service guys are nice. They've just all been a nice crew who are very sympathetic. And I think, like, we were joking when I laughed the day that I picked it up the last time. He's like,
see you tomorrow.
She's like, Nicole, I love you. I don't want to see you ever again. I'm like, same, Tyler. I never want to see you again. So they're nice. They're nice guys. They're a good dealership and they're trying to do right. And I think they're, when you have a car, you got to find a dealership that's going to treat you right from the sale to the service. And these guys are not a great situation. They're doing the best they can.
All right. Well, speaking of companies not necessarily doing the best that they can, at least from the perspective of some customers, GM, they a couple of years ago, they announced that they were going to stop supporting smartphone projection on their new EVs, that they've held to that line now, on at least here in North America. However, apparently, electric Cadillacs that are going to Australia and New Zealand are getting CarPlay and Android Auto support, and it's not entirely clear why.
What did we
But
do to hurt GM?
If you buy, I don't know, but if you're in Australia or New Zealand, you buy an Optic or a Lyric or a Vistic, you will be able to hook up your phone and use your phone projection and the infotainment instead of using the built-in Google system.
Maybe it just doesn't work very well in Australia. I mean,
It's possible.
It doesn't.
But
that's all. That's it. But it's only for the Cadillacs.
It
doesn't.
In the story in the drive about this, one thing that they brought up is the fact that in Australia and New Zealand, Super Cruise is not available. It's not, apparently, hands-free systems are not legally permitted there. So that's one aspect of GM's supposed seamless future driving experience that they can't support. So maybe they're thinking, well, we'll give them this, we'll give them CarPlay back as a response. Since we can't give them Super Cruise, we'll give you a CarPlay.
Okay, I don't. I really don't. I don't understand. Like, I don't know. Because they're like, oh well, we have our own thing, but it's not that great, to be fair. Yeah. All right, sure. So good way to go, Australia. Because I don't even know. I don't even know what to say, because they're like, well, it's not good enough, but it is for a lot of people because they continue to use it, and they haven't created an infotainment system in my mind that's amazing, that would make you not want to use it. And that's, when I wrote an article for ours, and I talked to GM afterwards, and I'm like, you can't take something away without offering something better first. You can't tell me what you're going to do. Mm-hmm. You have to do the thing. This is the same conversation I had with Tesla when the Model 3 came out, and they found out that my article was not going to be a glowing review of the Model 3. And I'm like, you can't tell me what the car's going to do in the future. I can only, that's not how a review works.
Yeah. We can only review what you're actually shipping.
Yeah. I can only talk about the thing that people can actually get. And right now, the thing that people can actually get, not great, software-wise, in the Teslas at the time. And it's the same thing with GM with this. I'm like, you can't tell me that it's going to be great, so we're taking away something that people have become accustomed to. You have to make it great, then take away.
Yeah, I mean, I have the same thing. I'm an Android user, as is my wife, and over the past year, Google has been gradually transitioning away from supporting Google Assistant to their Gemini AI system, and they want that to take over from Assistant. Mm-hmm. Well, the problem is, when they started pushing Gemini to phones, a lot of the functionality that we had with Assistant is not there in Gemini. Like, for example, with Google Assistant, I could open my garage door. If I'm in in a car that in a press car that I don't have my garage door opener in the car, I could just tap on the microphone or just say, "Hey Google," sorry to everybody whose phones just went off. I could just say, "Hey G, open garage door," and then I had an automation that was set up that would, because the Genie garage door opener I have has compatibility with Google Home and Google Assistant. That worked fine, and the garage door would open up. With Google Assistant, that stuff doesn't work.
Or Gemini.
With Gemini, that stuff doesn't work. There's a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't work. It's like, why are you pushing this new stuff that is missing features that people were using in the old version, in the old system? It's like, don't ship the new thing until it's at least as good. And like Google has done this many times over the years.
Yeah, it's kind of their MO, to be honest.
Let's see. Nicole has Riverside open in other tabs. What should I do? Yeah, Nicole dropped off a minute ago. Let's see. Close your other tabs. Oh, there you are.
There's your.
Are you guys having trouble
Welcome
too?
back to the podcast. Oh,
Are you there?
Yeah.
there.
All right. You're back. Okay.
Okay. Sorry. I don't know what happened. It just dropped.
Technology. Can't live with it. You can't live with it. All right. Let's move on. More automaker bad behavior. Last week, there was a verdict in a trial in Florida where Tesla was found by the jury to be partially responsible for a crash that killed a woman and severely injured another man when a car operating in autopilot mode went through an intersection, slammed into a parked car, which subsequently hit these two people, killing one of them. The families sued Tesla, and the jury found the driver of the Tesla responsible for 2/3 of the compensatory damages. It was like, I think, $140 million in compensatory damages, or $130 million. And so he's responsible for 2/3 of that. Tesla's responsible for the other third. But they also found Tesla liable for $200 million in punitive damages. So this is one of the very first lawsuits related to autopilot where it's actually gone all the way to a jury verdict. Almost all of these cases up until now, they've either gone to arbitration or Tesla has settled out of court before it went to a verdict. And in this case, Tesla lost in an autopilot lawsuit. And then it turns out after the case was done, Fred Lambert from Electric, who I've had issues with in the past, but he's actually doing some good stuff now. He actually went through the trial transcripts and found that there was all kinds of things that Tesla did that were, let's say, shady. So, Tesla has often talked about all the data that they collect from customer cars and using that to train their autopilot and their full self-driving systems. They're uploading data all the time. Well, in this case, Tesla claimed after the crash that, the data didn't get uploaded. We don't have any telemetry data from the crash. After 4 years, it turned out that, the plaintiffs in the case, they hired a forensic investigator. Turns out there actually was a very large data file that was uploaded from this vehicle to Tesla's servers that they first lied that even existed, then claimed it was corrupted. They did all kinds of shady things, to try to prevent access to the data. The investigator finally got the access to the data, and this is what showed that the car was in fact in autopilot mode. It did a bunch of things wrong that led to the crash. The driver, the reason he was held 2/3 responsible for the crash is because none of Tesla's systems are designed to be unsupervised. The drivers are supposed to keep their hands on the wheel and eyes on the road. He was using his phone and he dropped his phone and he was reaching down to pick up his phone when the car ran through the intersection and crashed. But the car had recognized that there was a vehicle there and ran into it anyway. And this is a major problem. Tesla's had this problem with their cars running into stationary vehicles for years, and it still happens. And there's been multiple investigations. And I wrote an article for a company website for telemetry, going through a bunch of this stuff. Tesla still are prone to phantom braking. Even the robo-taxis in Austin still do phantom braking. It's and NHTSA has done nothing about this. And NHTSA has been a dysfunctional agency for a long time, and it's not just with Tesla. Prior to all this autopilot stuff with Tesla, it took them years before before anything happened with GM with their faulty ignition switches. It was like 20 years of those faulty ignition switches before they finally responded, and GM did a recall and paid out $1 billion in fines to NHTSA, as well as hundreds of millions of dollars in settlements to people that were killed or injured in crashes caused by
a woman went to jail for that.
Yeah.
And GM knew there was a problem.
Mm-hmm.
They knew that it wasn't the woman's fault, but she went to jail for that. And then once it came out, she was, exonerated.
Yeah.
It was like, well, we know that there's a problem. Let her go to jail.
Yeah.
That's bad.
And, during my time, my 17 years as an engineer, one of the things I learned very early on was, you have to try and anticipate all the ways in which a customer might use your system incorrectly or inappropriately, and put in whatever measures you can to mitigate that. I was working first on ABS systems and later on traction control and stability control systems. And one of the things we always had to do is think about, okay, how can this possibly go wrong? What can we do to mitigate the consequences of something going wrong? Whether it's a hardware problem or a mistake in the software or the way the customer's using it. Those are the kinds of things you need to do. And Tesla has frequently not done that. One of the things that did change, after the whole ignition switch fiasco at GM, was they put in new policies, for looking for safety problems, in the way that they evaluate the safety cases on new systems. And it very quickly had some impacts, particularly on Super Cruise. Originally, Super Cruise was not designed with a driver monitor system. It did not have redundant steering control. When on the CT6, when they first put Super Cruise on there, they actually included a rear wheel steering system to provide extra steering capability in case your primary steering failed. And also the geofencing. They didn't have the geofencing originally. And they added all of that because of what happened with the ignition switches. And they continue to use those kinds of features. Now, GM is still far from perfect, as is every other automaker. They all have issues. But, at least some manufacturers are trying. And, I think regulators need to do more to prevent things like this, and to respond more quickly when issues like this come up, and to try to protect the public.
Yeah. I went to the
safety thing is such an issue when they're trying to protect themselves because they don't want lawsuits, but you got to protect the public. You got to keep people from getting hurt. That's more important.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on then. So we talked about your Wagoneer. On Thursday, I was at a Jeep event in Detroit, where we got to look at something new, which we can't talk about yet. But we also got some updates from Jeep on some of their other plans going forward. And Bob Broderdorf, who's now the CEO of Jeep, the Jeep brand, provided some updates. They released a teaser image. Well, one of the things they said was over the next 4 months, Jeep in North America is going to release 4 new or refreshed vehicles in North America. And then globally, there's going to be 7 models in the next 7 months. But for North America, the Jeep Recon is launching in November. At least that is the current schedule. So that is the off-road EV, sort of a Wrangler-sized vehicle, battery electric only. And the Cherokee, the new Cherokee is coming this fall. But they're also going to be releasing refreshed versions of the Grand Wagoneer and the Grand Cherokee. And they released an image of the Grand Wagoneer, the refresh. What do you think?
I think it looks good. I like what they did. The front of it looks cool.
Yeah, they've adopted a lot of the look of the Wagoneer S.
Mm-hmm. They have. I think it looks really good. Yeah, I'm obviously. Yeah, because it does have a lot of Wagoneer S in it, which I think is cool.
They also, they also confirmed that the Wrangler 392 is not going away after offering a final edition of the Wrangler 392 for the 2025 model year. It's coming back again, just like they've done with the Durango Hellcat.
This is the most Stellantis thing of ever. Whenever there's like, hey, this is the final year or something, don't be fooled.
Really?
It is not the final. It's never the final year. It's like, oh, there's a lot of people buying these. If there's enough people buying it, it's not going to be the final year. It is the Who's final tour. It is the Rolling Stones final tour. It is LCD Sound System, like breaking up. They are, that is the Stellantis way. Like, this is our last thing. Mm-hmm. Is it though?
Well, especially the last couple of years, it's definitely been that way. Now that the federal government has decided, we're no longer going to enforce corporate average fuel economy or emission standards. We're not going to fine anybody for failure to comply. So just go ahead and do whatever you want. So Jeep has decided, okay, we're gonna use everything we've got to try and bump up sales. So 392 is sticking around. I asked Bob Broderdorf, if they had considered offering a 5.7 Hemi in the Wrangler as a lower cost option, because the 392 is pretty expensive. It's like, $90,000. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he just smiled and said, everything's possible. Nothing is being ruled out.
Anything with the word Hemi. A Hemi could be a 3-cylinder, like Chevy Sprint motor, but if you put the word Hemi on it, everyone will be like, yeah, I got the Hemi. I got the Hemi. How much? It's got 80 horsepower. It's got 12 foot-pounds of torque, but it's the Hemi. I'm like, there's better engines. Hemi. I'm like, all right.
Yeah, I mean, Jeep themselves make better engines. The Hurricane, makes more power, more torque, and it's more fuel efficient.
But it doesn't say who. It doesn't. They just need to rename everything Hemi.
Yeah.
Every motor they make, just say it's a Hemi, and everyone will be happy.
Yeah. So the Hemi or the 392 is sticking around in the Wrangler. A few days before that, during their earnings call, Antonio Filosa, the new CEO of Stellantis, announced that the TRX is also coming back, the Ram TRX. So they're going to crank up production of Hellcats, and it's only a matter of time before they put the Hellcat back in the Charger.
Yeah, that's fine.
I don't know that it's a bad thing what they're doing.
I mean, for them,
for the near term, it's good for Stellantis. It'll probably help them sell more vehicles at higher margins. Longer term, it doesn't make them any more competitive globally. So,
no, not at all.
It's the same. Yeah. No,
and Jeep sales. I went through the numbers the other day. Jeep sales down last year to, it was they sold under 1 million. It was like 940,000, I think, last year, Jeeps globally, which was the first time that they've sold less than 1 million units since 2014. They peaked at over 1.5 million in 2018. So they're down 39% since then. And it's not looking good. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about the new Hyundai Palisade.
Do you know the way to Palisade?
All right, what'd you think? We all drove it. What'd you think?
What do you think, Robbie? You go first.
Oh, I liked it a lot. I think it's, I think it all started with the Kia Telluride, where suddenly HMG was putting out a 3-row SUV that was less expensive, but didn't feel cheap. It felt like almost like a luxury vehicle. You had tons of room. Everyone liked the design. People, I was driving one around. We were looking to buy a house, and our real estate agent lost his mind. He's like, "What is that? Oh my God, that's so." And I think, they're just continuing that with the Palisade in 2026. This is a refresh. There was a drive program for the last refresh for this vehicle that involved an off-road portion. And when I say off-road,
Yeah,
it was just a gravel road, really, like nothing. And then there was a dog and that you saw because you drove by a house. And then that was it. That was the drive program. And this time they were like, we're going to go off-road. We're going to do the XRT. And we're like, okay. But the actual off-road was for real off-road stuff. Way, way, way more than anyone who ever buys this vehicle will ever do. But I think one of the things is that it instills confidence in people who are looking for a little bit extra, capability in their vehicle. If they live in Northern California, maybe they go to Tahoe when it snows. Maybe they go up to Mount Shasta and they stay at a cabin somewhere out in the middle. There's a lot of dirt roads, and they feel confident. They know that their car will be able to do it. So, yeah, nice inside, lots of buttons, lots of knobs, lots of things that you can actually. And they I think there was a slide they had that was essentially told you it's intuitive controls, and they just put buttons more back in the car.
Yeah, I mean that's intuitive. We were talking about earlier with the Navigator. The digital vents, non-intuitive. That it's not at all intuitive. Buttons, intuitive. You could reach out, grab the vents, direct the airflow wherever you want. Worked really well. And on the off-road portion, it was an interesting trail that they had us drive on. The first part of it was a surprisingly narrow trail.
Very narrow.
Trees on one side and a very sharp drop off on the other side, a shelf road. So you had to be very careful. Fortunately, they've got the cameras, including the invisible hood view, where it uses the camera in the front to give you a view of what it would look like if you could see through your hood, and you can see where your wheels are, which was very helpful on trying to navigate that road. One thing that I was a little disappointed in on that part was, on the area where we had the moguls and the rocks, we only got to go downhill on that.
Oh, you want to go up?
Yeah, or at least on level ground. But uphill would be a little more challenging. To see how much grip it actually has.
I think uphill would actually have been easier because you're going downhill, so you're trying to modulate an automatic transmission to go through those rocks, and so it's almost it can be a little jerky because you don't want to too much power. But yeah, I think to be honest, I think uphill would have been a little bit easier because it's fighting against
maybe on the rocks,
but
not on the moguls. On the moguls, you need you want to go a little bit uphill to see if it's actually able to direct the traction where you need it, direct the power where you need it.
Yeah.
That would have been interesting to see.
But also, no one's doing moguls in a.
True. I mean, it was, and what we did was obviously far more challenging than anybody's going to do, with a Palisade XRT Pro. But still, it was nice to at least have something. I think they heard the message after the last drive program a couple of years ago when they did the mid-cycle update. They said, this is pointless.
It was such a weird. And then this was they just went so far the other direction.
Yeah.
But you're like, all right. I'm like, and then I got back and I told them that. And they're like, well, so what do you think? I'm like, well, after the last one, this is so far in the other direction. But, and again, no one's ever going to do this in the XR2. But when people buy this car, they know they can do it. They have that confidence that they'll be able to do something like this. They won't, but they know they can.
Yeah. And that's what people buy, buying what they think they might someday do rather than what they actually need.
Yeah. You could use the regular, Palisade to go up to Tahoe with all-wheel drive. You don't need the XRT. You can use the regular Tahoe to go on a dirt road. You don't need the XRT. But some people are like, well, I'm going to take it to Burning Man. I'm like, all right.
What did you think of the powertrain? So they replaced the old 3.8 liter with a new 3.5 that has a little bit less power than before. But they also have a hybrid that's coming up later in the year.
I'll be interested to see how the hybrid drives. I think I think in a world where we're looking at, people think every car needs to go 0 to 60 in under 4 seconds. This is totally adequate for this vehicle. I don't think it really needs more power than what it has. It is not a race car. It is a 3-row, drag your friends, drag your kids, drag your family. I got to put a bunch of stuff in the back, put the seats down vehicle. It does not need some insane powertrain. I think it's more than adequate for what it needs to do. I think the handling is the same. It's like, oh, this is nice. It's a little, it's not as tight, I think, as other SUVs, but again,
it's comfortable.
It's comfortable. You just need comfortable. You don't. I don't need to be doing 10/10 in a Palisade.
Yeah.
I don't need to be hitting the. I have a car for that. If you want that, you buy that car. And I think the idea that this car should, especially SUVs outside of the performance BMWs and the high end performance vehicles, the idea that an SUV should be also a performance car is sort of ridiculous, because most people don't ever do any of that stuff. And at the end of the day, all it does is hurt the actual regular driving experience.
Yeah, and one of the things you mentioned, putting the rear seats down. One of the things I liked, at least in the calligraphy trim, was there's a single button in the back that lets you lower all the second and third row seats one press. Just press one button, drops everything down. You get full cargo space. And then you can also put them up individually, put them up and down individually. But having that one button to push everything down at once, if you got to load something big in the back, that's very handy.
Oh yeah, the single button, because you're okay. I gotta put some stuff in the back of the car. Hold on, let me open up this door, put this seat down, open up this door, and this seat. And then if you have the buttons, okay, let me push the button for this one. Okay, now let me push the. Yeah, the one button to rule them all is a nice thing, especially when, like you said, when you're loading things up and you get out to the car and you're like, okay, give me a few minutes to put everything down, or I just push this button and just, okay, now I can shove all my stuff.
And then the same button also lifts everything back up again.
Yeah.
So
I got stuff out. Everyone get in the car. We're going to soccer practice.
Yep. All right. Unfortunately, Nicole has lost her connection again. Hold on. Says I'm stuck. It's slowly uploading. Carry on. Okay. Beat the frozen screen though. She's just technology's just not working for Nicole this week. All right, let's move on. Did you get a chance to watch this video that I dropped in the rundown of the LVCC loop?
No. I've been on the LVCC loop, and it's sort of ridiculous. I'm like, well, this doesn't make sense, because this could have been so much better. It just could have been a nice light rail system.
Mm-hmm.
It could have been like the tram, at the airport that gets that moves a ton of people. Instead, I gotta sit in a car, wait for a car, sit in the car, then someone drives the car.
Yeah, well, so for those not familiar with the Las Vegas Convention Center loop, this is the Boring Company's tunnel system with a bunch of Teslas driving through it. And when they first opened it a couple of years ago, they had 3 stations at the convention center, one by North Hall, one by Central Hall, one by South Hall, that could get you from one end of the convention center to the other in about, 3 or 4 minutes. And when they first did it, they had 2 parallel tunnels for cars going in different directions. Okay, fine. You would think a fairly simple operational design domain like that, like a tunnel with no intersections, no pedestrians, be pretty easy to do self-driving in there, but nope. They have.
Well, they have to stop before they get in a tunnel, so that you have to stop it. It's like the way it's set up, even on the ground levels, they have to stop and wait for traffic, and then it's so it feels so incredibly inefficient.
Yeah, well, they've since added 2 more stations, and it's gotten even worse, according to this video, which the link is in the going to be in the show notes. The tunnels from North Hall to the Fontainebleau and to Resorts World, for whatever reason, there's only a single tunnel for each one of those, which means that you can't have two-way traffic. Before a car can go into the tunnel, it has to wait for somebody coming from the opposite direction. And so, the guy, went, used the system to ride from the convention center over to Resorts World and over to the Fontainebleau Hotel, and had to wait like 10 minutes for a ride because he had to wait for the car that was in the tunnel to come out before he could get in the car going back in the opposite direction. It's just ridiculous.
You could walk there.
Yeah, because it's only a 10-minute walk. It's a couple of blocks from the Resorts World over to West Hall at the convention center. It's idiotic. All right, enough of that. Let's move on to the Chevy Bolt. So Chevrolet released the first teaser image of the new Bolt this week on Instagram. And Edmunds actually had an article about a month or so ago about the new Bolt, where they actually had some spy photos of it. And basically, the body looks like it's mainly the old Bolt.
It just looks like the Bolt
with a new front and rear end. Yeah, nothing wrong with the design. I was actually fine with the design.
Yeah.
But one of the things that GM said when they announced that they were going to build a new Bolt is that it's going to use lithium iron phosphate batteries. The problem was there's no domestic source of lithium iron phosphate batteries right now for EVs. Ford has used them in the standard range version of the Mach-E. Tesla's used them in the standard range version of the Model 3. But they've all imported batteries from CATL, LFP batteries from CATL in China. And it turns out that GM is going to be doing the same thing, at least temporarily, for the first 2 years, until 2027. They will be using Chinese-made CATL LFP batteries in the Bolt. And then in 27, a couple of weeks ago, GM announced that they were going to convert some of the production lines at their Spring Hill, Tennessee battery plant to produce LFP cells in partnership with LG. So presumably those will go into the Bolt among other vehicles. So it's going to be Chinese batteries, which means that they will be tariffed. And according to Edmunds, the new Bolt should have a range of more than 300 miles, which is, the old one, the standard one was like 260 miles and 250 for the EUV. And it will apparently also offer Super Cruise. But for the batteries, even though the batteries will have a hefty tariff on them, I've talked to a few different people this week, and I think that could actually still work out for GM, even with 100% tariff on the batteries. One of the things that CATL builds, these will probably be cell-to-pack batteries, so should be no modules in the battery, unlike most of the traditional nickel, manganese, cobalt batteries. Instead of having the cells put into a smaller box and then putting that into a bigger box to isolate them, because LFP cells are so stable and so not prone to fires, it can just pack the LFP cells directly in there. So you can get a lot more cells into the same size pack and get about twice as much of the volume of the pack full of active material that is storing energy. And also because you're getting rid of the modules and a lot of other components, you can make the battery cheaper. So the cost savings of using an LFP battery in a cell-to-pack design could probably offset the tariffs that they're going to have to pay temporarily on this. And they could probably, and with all the other components that they're switching to Ultium-based parts, which are built in much higher volume than the Bolt ever was, they could probably still at least break even on this thing, if not be profitable, and sell it at close to the same price as the old Bolt.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
We'll see. I like the old Bolt. It was the number one selling EV that didn't have a Tesla badge on.
Yeah, it was.
And
for
GM's like, we're gonna kill it. We're like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Like,
we're just gonna kill it. And then everyone lost their minds. And then they're like, oh, we're gonna bring it back. You're like, yeah, just say you're gonna make it better. Just don't kill it.
And to be fair, they were probably losing quite a bit of money on the old Bolts because they had a lot of parts that were used only on that vehicle, not on anything else. So they didn't really have much economies of scale.
But the idea of like just killing it when it was a number, when it had like, even after fire issues, even for everything, it was still selling. They were 65,000 units in 1 year.
Yeah, because it was the only EV you could get for under $30,000 with over 250 miles of range.
Yeah, no, it was a good car, and they could have said, well, you know what, let's make it better, like Rivian did with their vehicles. Rivian's like, oh, how about we make these so we make more money with these vehicles? Yeah. But no, we're gonna get rid of our cheap car, and in our press release, we're gonna talk about the Silverado. It'll start at $100,000.
Yeah, that didn't work out so well.
So everyone lost their minds, and then GM's like, oh, I guess people really did like this car. I'm like, yeah, maybe the sales told you that. I don't know.
Speaking of Chinese batteries, BMW next in a few weeks at the IA Mobility Show in Munich, they're going to launch the new iX3 there, which is the first of their vehicles off their Neue class platform. So that's their next generation EV platform, and those are initially going to be built in Germany. That was weird. That was my UPS, my uninterruptible power supply that just beeped for some reason. Anyway, and then next year they were supposed to start building the iX5. So the next generation X5 with an EV version in South Carolina, in Spartanburg. And that one was planned that, they were going to build several EVs in Spartanburg. And the plan was they were going to get cells from Envision AESC, which is the company that was formerly owned by Nissan. They sold it off a few years ago to a Chinese company called Envision. Envision has been building two new battery plants in the U.S. One is in Kentucky that's going to supply Mercedes-Benz for EVs they build in Alabama, and then a second one in South Carolina to supply BMW. And about a month or so ago, power's flickering. That's not good. About a month ago, Envision announced that they were pausing construction of that battery plant in South Carolina, which means that BMW is without a battery supplier for their South Carolina-built EVs.
Oh.
Yeah. And they're using 46 millimeter cells, 46 120 cells in their new EVs. So it's being reported now that they may end up using Chinese batteries, Chinese-built batteries, to start with in the iX5 next year. But I think BMW is still looking for a domestic supplier for those batteries. Panasonic just started production at their new plant in Kansas, which is actually producing 46 millimeter cells for. It's going to be producing 46 millimeter cells for Tesla, and so they could conceivably be a supplier for BMW in South Carolina as well.
Yeah, I mean, they still got over a year before these things go into production, so
yeah. Still, changing battery suppliers or cell suppliers is challenging. It's complicated. You got a lot of validation work to do.
Yeah. And it takes a while to get even just the cell, to get that stuff spun up, and then, it's going to take a while for Panasonic. So it's all hard. It's not like you can't just like start you just can't drop a car factory into somewhere and then boom, make cars. And you can't just like boom, start making cells. And like, don't even get me started on fabs for
chips.
It's like an 8 to 10 year process.
Mm-hmm.
It's so hard to do that. They're like, we're gonna make chips in America, and I'm like, I mean, okay, cool, but it's maybe you should learn how long it takes to do that.
Yeah.
What do I know?
We can do it next month.
You can do it next month. Dirty, gross chips that explode when you put them in things.
Yeah. One last item before we get to a couple of listener emails. Ford has further delayed their next generation full-size electric pickup truck and van to 2028. They were supposed to come out in 27. They've now pushed them back to 2028. So that is the earliest that production will start at the new Blue Oval City factory in Tennessee near Memphis. I talked to somebody who's familiar with the work going on there. They said, they've slowed down the construction work there to the point where they've only got a couple of hundred tradespeople working on it now, to just keep things moving along just at a much slower pace than originally planned.
Well, yeah.
But tomorrow, as we record this, Ford is making an announcement in Louisville about the future of the Louisville assembly plant. They have two plants in Louisville, one that builds Super Duty pickups and the Navigator and Expedition, and the other one builds the Escape and the Corsair. And after next year, those vehicles will no longer be built there. In fact, the Escape is probably going away entirely from what we're hearing. But they're going to be making an announcement about what is going to be produced in Louisville starting later in 2026. And it will be electric.
They better show something. They can't just come out and be like, they've the Model T, and if it's just like a business plan, come on, man.
Yeah, they're not going to show anything tomorrow.
It's ridiculous.
Because they said, hey, if you want to come down to Louisville, said, well, you going to have anything to show us? No. I said, well, why would I drive 5 hours to Louisville to see nothing?
They got to show something.
I'll take a pass.
You can't like hype it up like that.
Yeah.
But that's a Ford. That's Ford's way. And I don't know what's going on.
All right. Let's answer some questions. And first up from Jeff D. This came in from the Discord. Question for the hosts or anyone else that might know about in-car connectivity in Chevys, the Equinox EV in particular, but maybe it applies to other models. Online info says that OnStar connectivity services are provided for 3 years. This provides LTE 5G connectivity for the in-car Android Automotive system for that duration. My question is about after that expires. Is it possible to connect the vehicle to your phone over Wi-Fi using your phone as a Wi-Fi hotspot after the OnStar service ends or whenever? No one ever seems to talk about any of these kinds of connectivity issues in the reviews. So first of all, there's a couple of different things going on here with OnStar on the GM EVs. So what you get for 3 years is the basic OnStar connectivity that gets you things like 911 assist, and you can remote lock and unlock your car and manage the charging remotely, things like that. That's what you get for 3 years. On the EVs that don't have CarPlay and Android Auto support, which includes the Equinox, you actually get 8 years of connectivity for the infotainment system. So Google Maps, Google Assistant, and the Play Store work for 8 years without any additional charges. That's bundled into the price of the car. The 3 years also gets you connectivity for streaming apps. So if you're using Pocket Casts or NPR's app or other media streaming apps, that's included in that 3 years. And then 8 years for the Google services. And then after that, after the 3 years, you actually can use your phone as a hotspot. And I've tried it on multiple different vehicles. You can use your phone as a hotspot and connect the car to your phone and then use that connectivity so you don't have to pay for an OnStar package. At least that is the case currently. In a couple of years, who knows if GM will change that and say, no, you can't use your phone anymore. You got to use OnStar if you want to do this. But as of right now, that is the case.
There you go.
Kevin W. asked, longtime listener to the show as well as all the appearances of Robbie and Sam on the Twit network. Really enjoy the banter between them. I'm writing to ask about my 2018 Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV plug-in hybrid. I'm trying to find out if my theory is correct. I believe that charging the battery while driving is more efficient on level or downward slopes, but less efficient going up hills. I live in the mountains, so every time I go home, if I have to climb many hills, and I found that by keeping the battery charged as much as possible while ascending, I can turn off the engine and run on battery power instead. I'm trying to get better with gas mileage as well as save on wear and tear on the engine. Thanks for an awesome show. Do you want to take this one?
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, no, this make, I mean, if you're going downhill, you got a regenerative braking. You have, so you're charging your battery. And then when you're going uphill, if you turn off the motor, if you turn off the engine, I'm sorry, and you start using the electric motor, then yes, you're definitely going to use, you're going to save. So, that's one of the weird things. What happens when you start driving a lot of EVs is that every time I lift in a gas car, I'm like, man, this is just wasted.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm not making gasoline. I'm not making anything. This is just a waste. This is all.
You mean your gas engines aren't putting more gas back in the tank?
They're not making more gas. I don't have like a little tiny refinery or anything in my. It's a disappointment, to be honest. But yeah, so no, this does work out. This does make sense. Going uphill obviously puts more pressure and on your engine because you're dragging a giant multi-ton hunk of metal, steel, and plastic up a hill. If you can have the electric motor do that, there are fewer things that can go wrong. There are fewer moving parts. So in the long run, this is a very smart way to A, save money, and B, save wear and tear on the engine components of your vehicle. So yeah, just try to. It's fun when you're going downhill in an EV or a PHEV because you can watch like your miles per kilowatt hour just go insane because they're like, oh, I'm getting 999 miles of range right now. I think I have a screen grab somewhere of me driving an EV9 down from South Lake Tahoe.
Yeah.
It's just like 1,000 miles of range per kilowatt hour.
Yeah, I mean it's basic physics. When you're going uphill, you're working against gravity. You got gravity pulling you down, so you're going to have to work harder going up the hill. Just like if you're climbing a hill, walking up a hill, or walking down the hill, it's a lot easier to go downhill than it is uphill. And the same thing for your engine. Your engine's going to be working harder, using more fuel. And if you've got enough juice in your battery, if you can charge up. Like for example, I'm assuming that Kevin is going to work. So he lives in the mountains. He's working somewhere down in the valley. So if you can charge up at the bottom of the hill while you're at work or going shopping or whatever it might be, so you've got a full battery before you head uphill, and you can use that energy. That's going to be a lot more efficient than using the engine. Now, I'm not sure, in the Outlander, especially the first generation Outlander plug-in, you might not have enough electrical power to maintain speed. If it's a highway that you're climbing, so you may have to use some engine, but the engine is not going to have to work as hard, even if the engine does have to be on. And then, going downhill, you can just put it in EV mode and just let the battery charge as you're rolling down the hill. It works great. And if you're ever towing, EV going downhill, towing while going downhill is great because, instead of using your brakes, and heating up your brakes while you're going down a hill, you're just regenerating, putting energy back into the battery and saving your brakes so your brakes don't overheat. So if you actually do need your brakes for an emergency stop while you're going downhill, they're going to be in much better condition than they would be for a gas or a diesel vehicle.
Yeah, don't ride your brakes when you're driving downhill. You just glaze over and then they overheat and it's a whole mess.
Yeah.
Drive slower. That's like
all right. Final one from Brent is, here's my question for the show. Wanted to jump on the high mileage EV battery discussion. Well, it's great to hear about a Mach-E hitting 250,000 miles. I think we're missing the bigger picture. Time, not miles, seems to be the real killer for EV batteries. I own a 2013 Volt with 162,000 miles. Started failing around the 9-year mark due to a weak cell. The cost of a replacement battery would have been enormous, which is a problem for anyone hoping to keep an EV for as long as they could, as long as they would a gas car. In my younger years, I used to drive used cars that were 10 to 15 years old and would have loved to have kept this Volt another 5 years. Most of the success stories like that high mileage Mach-E we see are for cars that are still under 10 years old. If the average car on the road is 12 years old, this is a huge potential issue for the longevity and value of used EVs. What do you think about the battery's lifespan being limited by its age, regardless of mileage? It seems to me that we see very few 10-year-old Volts, Leafs, and Teslas on the roads these days, and the batteries for those 2015 and older cars are not only expensive, but hard to come by. So I don't entirely agree with this, that it's time. It's more a matter of how the battery's been charged.
Yeah, charge, discharge, charge, discharge. There's a finite life of a battery.
Yeah, so you only get so many charge cycles out of a given battery. One of the things with the Volt, it does have a modular battery pack, and the battery pack is serviceable. If there is just one bad cell, it should actually be possible to have that module replaced rather than the entire battery. It's still a significant amount of labor. I mean, you're probably still looking at least maybe, $2,000, $2,000 or $3,000 to replace one module. But you don't necessarily have to replace the entire battery pack. There are also companies that are starting to do refurbished, remanufactured batteries. Cox Automotive, for example, they bought a battery recycling and reconditioning company, remanufacturing company a couple of years ago, called Spears New Technologies. And they have huge stocks of remanufactured batteries. And there are others that are doing remanufactured batteries now, where they take the batteries out of older plug-in hybrids and EVs and even regular hybrids and test them, replace any modules that are weak, and have those available as service parts, as refurbished parts for service. 162,000 miles on the Volt. Again, if you've been plugging it in daily, you're probably used up most of the charge cycles on that thing. That was a early first generation Volt, that is, it's got different battery chemistry from the later ones that were built and from the EVs that are being built now. It's not as robust. At 162,000 miles, that's not, it's not great, but, it's not terrible. With pure battery EVs, they're using the batteries in a different way than that Volt would have been using it. And it's not using the full cycle, the full charge range of the battery most of the time. You're using, typically, in most cases, you're using only a small percentage of the battery on a daily basis. And if, as long as you're not charging it to 100% all the time or running it all the way down till it's completely depleted, and something like a Volt or other plug-in hybrids, you're probably going to, if you're charging it every day, you're probably going to drive it till it's depleted and then, drive it as a hybrid until you get a chance to plug it in again. So that's going to be a little harder on the battery. So it's not, I mean, if you just park an EV for 8 or 9 years, as long as you have, if it's been at least partially charged before you park it, the time is not necessarily going to degrade the battery. It's the way it's been charged and discharged.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate, especially the Leafs, like those battery packs on those older Leafs are they're not great.
Yeah, that's a different story because they were air cooled. At least the Volt was liquid cooled.
Yeah. I do see a lot of old Teslas.
Mm-hmm.
I live in Northern California again, so it's like EV Wonderland. So I do see a lot of those old vehicles. I think it's unfortunate, especially when first gen, hybrids, plug-in hybrids, or electric vehicles. There's always, unfortunately, there's things they have to figure out, and it's sort of like, oh, we made this thing, and we're pretty sure it does well, but this is the first time we've made this, so fingers crossed. And so what happens is is that the you end up with things where a cell goes bad, and it's also the economies of like how many volts are there out there. Unfortunately, there should have been millions of volts out there. The Volt should have never been discontinued. The Volt should have lived on, and then there would be tons more refurbished batteries available. But unfortunately, GM is GM, and they decided to kill a thing that people who own them actually loved their Volt. My brother still has his Volt. He loves that thing. And so
there's a couple in my neighborhood.
Yeah, the people who have them, they love them, and yeah, it's there's people who really like the early Leafs, but then that air cooled battery just did not. Yeah,
the Leaf is a bigger problem than the Volt, because a lot of them were sold in hot weather climates, California, Arizona, Nevada, and they had a lot, they got exposed to a lot of heat, and that did a lot of damage to a lot of those early Leaf batteries. Yeah. The new Leaf is liquid cooled now, so that shouldn't be a problem anymore. But pretty much anything newer should be fine. The guys at TFL, I can't remember if it was earlier this year or last year, they bought a used Model S. They bought 2014, I think, 2013 or 14 Model S. It's one of the early ones, and it has about 100,000 miles on it, and it still has like 85% of its original capacity. It's lost some, but it's still doing pretty well. It's still very drivable. I mean, the battery is the least of the problems on that car. Yeah, it's got a lot of suspension components that need to be replaced and things like that. But the battery's fine.
Tesla suspension is notoriously trash.
Yeah,
and they're not made to last a long time.
No.
Yeah, I think that's unfortunate. I'm bummed about your Volt, because Brent, because the people who love their Volts love their Volts, and it would have been nicer if Chevy had not stopped making that car. But yeah, there's more with more. Again, it's more and more EVs on the road means there's more and more parts. There's more and more information. Means there's automakers are learning every day that they don't have to make things as modular as they thought they do. The modules in the packs they're using fewer and fewer modules, because they were like, oh, these packs, things are going to break, they're going to have bad cells, and instead of, replacing the whole pack, we can just replace this one little module. But instead they're realizing like, oh, they don't fail as much as we thought they would. They're actually far more robust. So they're using, fewer and fewer modules in these packs, just because you're getting, like you talked about with the Bolt, you're getting a denser pack, you're getting more range, you're getting more capacity in the same amount of space. So it's a learning process. 10 years, oh my God, 2013, that's so long ago.
12 years now.
12 years. 12 years ago was, we were at one place, and in 10 years, I feel like EVs is just going to get better. The technology is going to get better. The battery technology is going to get better. Everything's going to get better. It's iterate. Right now, ICE, internal combustion engine, it's just like teeny tiny little adjustments that make things sort of a little bit better. There's a lot of computer stuff that makes them more efficient. Whereas EVs are still, there's still like huge leaps that can be made. by the automakers that are willing to take the chances and figure out how to make these things better. And then, whoever figures it out, everyone else just follows suit.
Yeah, I just did a quick search online for remanufactured Volt batteries, and you can get a remanufactured battery for the first gen Volt from as little as $4,500.
Wow. But then you have to put it in. I think we need to get to a point where there's also like just regular service shops, like a regular, like
and those are going to increase. There's going to be more and more of those.
Yeah, it's just this weird, we're in the early days type thing. When I talk about EVs, I always say that we're at flip phones. We're not even to smartphones yet when it comes to EV.
Yeah,
we're still at flip phones. We're almost to the BlackBerry or the Trio. But yeah, we still have a little bit of time, and I think there's a lot of learning. I mean, the idea that when we talk about everything being in the screen, like that's something everyone's learning. They're like, oh, what are we doing?
That was a dumb idea.
Yeah, it's like in the 90s. Remember when seatbelts were attached to the door, or they had the mechanic, like either they were attached to the door and they were fixed, or when you close the door, it'd be all, it would move.
Yep. Run up the A-pillar back over your shoulder.
Yeah, whose idea was that? Who thought that? And one automaker did it, and then everyone did it, and then everyone realized this is the dumbest thing on the planet.
That was an accountant at Ford who thought, oh, this would be cheaper than actually putting airbags in a car when they had passive restraint requirements. Yeah, and that was a bad idea.
It was a bad time. It was the bad times. It was so weird. They would get caught up. Yeah, I think there's every generation of car has somebody, hey, let's do this, and then everyone does it without realizing that owners don't like it or customers don't like it or whatever. It's it's just like the real world. If someone does something, everyone else just copies it without really like thinking about it.
Yep. Man, this Green Tech that I found, Green Tech Auto, they have new and remanufactured EV and hybrid batteries. You can get a battery for the 2007 to 2013 Chevy Tahoe hybrid for $3,000. They have everything here.
They got everything. Now we're just going to be shopping for batteries for cars that we don't know. I'm like, oh, what do they got here? What's going on here?
Yeah, I mean, even that remanufactured Volt battery for $4,500, you're probably still looking at about another $1,000 for installation. But I mean, that gets you back, to a new, effectively a new battery, and you can keep driving that car for many years to come. And that battery comes with a warranty. So, might be worth considering that. I'll include a link in the show notes to that. So you might want to check that out as an alternative. Yeah. Still cheaper than buying a lot of used cars.
Man, cars are so expensive.
I know. All right. Well, that's it for this week, everybody. Thank you all for listening, and we'll be back next time. Bye.
Bye.
If you're a podcast host, listen up. This one's for you. My name is Allie Jackson. I'm the host of Finding Mr. Height, a dating and relationship podcast that I've been doing for 4 years now, sharing my positive and practical approach to dating that's built on my own life experience. And I wanted to share another experience that I've had, my secret behind monetizing my show. It's called Red Circle. And I was just telling my colleague about how much I love their platform. With Red Circle, not only am I getting a seamless hosting experience, but I also love the support I receive in ad sales. It's not just typical ad sales either. It's targeted opportunities based on my show and my life. And the platform is super simple. You just set your preferences and Red Circle matches you with sponsors that align with your show. You can vet every opportunity and their platform gives you great analytics. More recently too, my Red Circle team has brought me opportunities outside of my podcast on social media to really augment the podcast partnerships, bring them full circle. I just can't recommend them enough. If you want to give it a try, go to redcircle.com to get your free trial. That's redcircle.com for a free trial.